So UFC St. Louis has just concluded, and going into this event, there were a few fighters I definitely had my eye on. That would have been Robelis Despaigne, Chase Hooper, Joaquin Buckley, and of course, the one and only headlining this card, Rodrigo Nascimento. These were the guys I was really interested in seeing, and some of them performed very, very well. Others, not so much. Starting off with Robelis, I do not want to be mean here. That is the last thing I am attempting to do right now. I never ever talk about this, but I was an 11-year-old Taekwondo prodigy. My dad only had to pay my instructor $2,000 on top of the monthly payments in order to get my black belt. For those not in the know, that is a steal in today's economy. So I have nothing but respect for Robelis. But he was coming into the UFC with a skill set at heavyweight that we have never ever seen before. He was a bronze medalist in the Olympics for Taekwondo, standing at 6'7" with an 84.5-inch reach. Now, look, we all knew if he gets put flat on his back, he's in trouble. We all knew that. But with his length, power, and skill set, he should be the most terrifying fighter to try to close the distance with. I mean, you look at some of his Taekwondo matches, the way he throws head kicks, the way he brings his knee right up the middle and just snaps those high kicks. It's something extremely difficult to deal with, and it's something you're not going to see at heavyweight. But even with all of this at his disposal, he went into this fight against Waldo with none of it. He did not use any of that skill set at all. His game plan for this fight should have been so simple. Go out there, take the center of the ring, use your bladed stance, and just pepper this guy with kicks, leg kicks, body kicks, high kicks. Make him have to close the distance, and the second he has to, just touch him with the right hand. But that is not what he did. He immediately goes out there, and he does use the sideways stance, which I applaud him for. That stance allows you to move forward and backwards extremely quickly, which is a huge advantage when it comes to distance management. But there was none of that in this fight. Robelis gets right in his face, pushes him back into the fence, and just starts swinging haymakers. And it's such a shame because you can tell his attributes are off the charts. The speed of his jab, oh my goodness, someone that big should not be able to throw that fast. But because he was paying no mind to maintaining proper distance between him and his opponent, he ran right into a takedown, 15 seconds in. He got held down for the entire round. He got put into a pretty tight Americana. Waldo, he would have been able to finish it if he just pulled Robelis' arm down closer to his body. That would have really put the pressure on the shoulder.
There's a 3-step move here, all right? I have the grip, I pull his arm in, I twist my wrists, and I pull his elbow down to his feet, okay? Notice I did not pull his arm up like this.
But then the second round starts and Robelis does the exact same thing. He threw some good kicks, he threw some good jabs, but again, he overextends trying to land the knockout blow and just runs right into the clinch. But in that moment, he actually had decent hips and was able to defend. They separate and he does throw some good kicks. But then again, he is over-relying on trying to get the knockout shot. He overextends, runs right into the clinch again, and this time he gets taken down again. And then from that point on, you can tell he was a lot more fatigued. His punches did not have that same amount of speed, and he blew it. The fight was over by that point. This fight reminded me a lot of Ngannou's first fight with Stipe. Now, Robelis' last 5 fights have lasted a combined 25 seconds. And because of that, he relied way too heavily on his power instead of utilizing his skill set. I think whenever Robelis' next fight is going to be, that's going to be extremely telling. We know he is never going to be a high-level grappler, no matter what. But he doesn't need to be in order to use his sideways stance, dart in and out, maintain range, keep guys on the end of his shots. Make them try to close the distance with you so you can land that one shot to put him out. I think it's doable for him, but this performance, that was poor. That was shocking. But then we move on to Chase Hooper. Now, I'll be honest, I was a bit worried for Chase going into this matchup. The guy he was fighting isn't the highest level fighter by any means, but he's a very good striker. And Chase, we've seen a lot of iterations to his game through his career so far. When he first got to the UFC, he was just all about shooting sloppy takedowns, clinching up with you to get to some kind of advantageous position where he would have the submission advantage. But that came to a halt when it just did not work against Alex Caceres. So then, in the next fight, Chase came out with a different style. He was fighting more like a karate guy and then throwing Imanari rolls like Ryan Hall, looking for heel hooks. And, that fight was a bit scary, but he got it done and got the heel hook. But then again, immediately after that against Steven Peterson, that strategy did not work, and he ended up getting stuck underneath half guard, chest to chest, and he got smashed. But since then, we've seen him make a lot of improvements with his striking, which I really think is the key to making his jiu-jitsu so effective in MMA. Be very dangerous on the feet, and be somebody that people don't want to take down. You can always keep the Imanari rolls in your back pocket, but this is a much more sustainable strategy, and it worked out brilliantly here. His punches, they looked fast, they looked dangerous, his high kicks looked very good, and the way he would duck down and throw those looping punches. The reason those were so effective is your opponent does not know if you're shooting or if you're punching. And if you're constantly mixing in the takedowns with your strikes, shots like that are gonna open up. And after dropping him, just seeing how quickly he gets a hold of him and slides those hooks in. Someone that long, it's extremely difficult to escape from those positions. And he was even able to get a reverse triangle for a little while. The problem was with that submission, the arm of your opponent that is in the triangle, you need their shoulder pushing into their own throat. That is what puts them to sleep. But clearly, as you can see, there's a lot of space in between Borshev's right shoulder and his neck. Hooper needed to get the triangle lock behind his shoulder in order to put the pressure there, but that can be really difficult to do with the reverse triangle. As far as the Darce at the end of the fight, Borshev didn't mean to tap, but two things. One, he was losing that fight very badly. He was having zero success. And two, Chase was in the process of really cinching up that Darce. You see, when he first locks it up, Borshev's arm is reaching around Hooper's back. Which, as long as he has his arm stretched around like that, he's good there. He's not going to get finished by that choke. But that's why Chase started rolling. If he could flip him over and then get to his knees and step over his body, that would have been it. Regardless, Chase called out Paddy Pimblett after the fight, which I think is a really, really interesting matchup. Paddy has a lot of power on the feet, but he is a very, very bad striker. You can tell he has never spent the day in an actual Muay Thai kickboxing gym. He learned how to strike in an MMA gym. And it really, really shows. But his grappling is very, very good. You can tell he's done pure jiu-jitsu, a lot of it. So that would be a super, super interesting fight to see. But I think you just give Chase Islam Makhachev. That's what I think. Moving on to the Joaquin Buckley fight. Look, all I got to say about that fight is Buckley is the definition of black genetics. I think it would take me 5 solid years of working out really hard, eating right, sleeping right, doing everything right in order to look like what Buckley did at 12 years old. I think that is just the reality of our genetic differences. His fight tonight against Rusev, it just looked so funny seeing them standing next to each other. The height difference was insane. Rusev is listed at 6'5", seems to me at least 6'6". But interestingly enough, their arm length is exactly the same. But as you guys know, your height is way more important to your reach than your arm length is. That's why Buckley was really struggling in round 1 connecting with his hands. But those takedowns he was hitting, he was just spearing right through him. It was insane to watch. Now, my one big takeaway from that matchup in particular was we need to see more freak show fights in the UFC. I want a UFC event where every single fight on the card is the tallest versus the shortest of that division. I think that would be fantastic. And now, moving on to the main event, as all my hardcore fans know, I love Rodrigo Nascimento. I've been riding very, very high on this guy for a very, very long time. And, he lost. And that hurts. It hurts. What else can I say? Derrick Lewis, I'll be honest, Derrick Lewis will always be a fan favorite for many, many reasons. But as we stand right now, it's not like he's really in title contention anymore. I don't think he ever will be. He is a very, very dangerous big puncher, but as far as setting up his shots, as far as having, really good boxing skills, he's never really had that. But the UFC is still just, kind of using what's left of his star power to, fill up main event spots. The same exact thing they're doing with Holly Holm. And I would much rather watch Derrick Lewis than Holly Holm, so I'm not complaining by any means. But that's why I was really riding high on Nascimento. I just thought that he could breathe life into this heavyweight division that we've never seen before. I mean, for those who don't remember, Nascimento, he went to war with Chris Daukaus. And I'm talking about the Chris Daukaus. And that was his sole loss on his record. So, I thought he had a ton of potential. I still think he does have a lot of potential, but, that's just how it goes sometimes. For the most part, Lewis's punches, they weren't set up that well. Nascimento, just by covering up and bracing, he was pretty much able to eat it. It was the one time Derrick actually set up a good punch he didn't see coming. That's what finished him. And that's what we need more of from Derrick Lewis. But at the end of the day, no matter what happens, I will always be riding extremely high on Rodrigo Nascimento. And I know many of you will be doing so as well.